Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Hayya ala salah. Allahu Akbar.
Islam,
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 Islam.
I want to first rise and give praise to Allah, Almighty, Eternal, and Incomprehensible. I want to give honors to His prophet, our prophet, the last prophet in these days and times, Prophet Noble Ali, Savior of humanity, love made manifest so that men can comprehend. I want to give honors to the forerunner, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Boldly came, stirring up the hearts and minds of the Asiatics to prepare for the coming prophet. I want to give honors to the prophet's strategy for obeying Allah and fulfilling his destiny, which is being a prophet of Allah, which is the Moorish Science Temple of America, founded in 1913 AD in Newark, New Jersey. I want to give honors to all past and present leadership of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And when I say that, I'm not talking about specifically on the manifest. Man, the prophet taught us that man is not the body of the soul, man is spirit and part of Allah. So if man is spirit and part of Allah, then the Moorish Science Temple of America is a thought organization. And if unity is as simple as all of us carrying the same thought. Just that simple. So when I say we give honors to all leaders, past and present, national, state, and local of the Moorish Science Temple of America, this is what I'm speaking about. Because our people are crazy. Our people are crazy. So it takes a special type of person. It took a special type of man to be the prophet.
Yes, sir.
So it takes a special type of people to take up a portion of the prophet's work. You see, I'm going to give honors to the thought of unity that gave birth to the idea that we call Ali's men. I want to give honors to that though. And I want to give honors to everything that the prophet brought us for the uplifting of fallen humanity. I want to give honors to my wife, who's bugging me right now. She on me, brother. No, she on me. You better say this. You better say that. But very seriously, I just want to share something with you all really quick. She mentioned to me. She said, "Listen, you maximizing and fully coming into your destiny is contingent upon both of us working on that together."
Islam.
Right.
It's real.
Right. Both of us working on that together. If we're not working on it together, the synergy that brings forth, the striving for perfected man status isn't there. And both of our efforts now don't bear the fruit they should. So I give honors to my wife for being one of my teachers. Literally. Whew, man. So I want to give special honor also to the Nation of Islam. I want to give a special honor to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I want to give honors to the representatives of that organization. One of the reasons, again, this is a personal thing for me. If it wasn't for the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I wouldn't have heard of Prophet Noble Ali and been brought to the Moorish community. This is the fact. That is the fact. So I give honors to that. I give honors to that. Back in 2013, myself and a brother in the Nation of Islam who heavily influenced a number of us and continues to, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, shared the stage. I believe for the first time ever, a member or a speaker, as a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America and another speaker representing the Nation of Islam shared the stage and spoke in a joint fashion. I think that made history. And the topic of the joint topic was called The Sun Rises in the West. The Sun Rises in the West. A celebration of an Islam for our people, by our people, absent influence of another foreign culture. This is an Islam that does not exclude our people in the unity of Allah. We don't believe in a unity plus something else. We don't believe in that. So praise Allah for that. I'm gonna get right into it. My title, or the title of my lecture in 2013 was True Islam, the Jewel of the Secret Societies. One of the objectives, one of the things I wanted to get across was that the Moorish Science Temple of America is many things. Among those things is a true body of initiation into the inner mysteries, on par with any other organization purporting to carry what's called the authentic tradition. And so that, you can see that on YouTube. It's on YouTube. So I won't even, again, I don't want to take too much time. This is part 2. Part 1, we push the envelope a little bit. Part 2, the envelope's off the table. True Islam, the Jewel of the Secret Societies, Part 2, The New World, American Destiny, and the Return of the Moorish Islamic Gnosis. Right? The Prophet teaches us in chapter 7, says, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, what is understanding? Understanding is the rock that man builds himself upon. It's the Gnosis. That's right. What do we mean by Gnosis? Gnosis is, to put it in a simple way, Gnosis is how the infant knows mom is pulling up in the driveway. He didn't have to go to school or read a book. Nobody had to whisper in his ear. He can't even get up out the crib to go outside and look. So how does he know? Gnosis is an inner knowing that is substantiated by outer experience. Show you something. The mere fact that we're in this room today is a result of this Gnosis. My leader, Brother R. Jones Bey, Grand Sheikh and Moderator of the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated, said something. It was very simple. He said, we don't worry about the numbers or the lack of numbers. Why? You're thrice blessed. Well, why are you thrice blessed? Think about it. How many of us have family members, friends, acquaintances that are very educated, very intelligent, in many cases more so than us, but cannot grasp the idea that man cannot be Negro, black, colored, etc. But you grasp it. But you do. And you can talk to them until they have a hole in their head and they still don't get it. That's Gnosis, brother. That's a choosing. That's what that is. We'll talk about that choosing a little bit later in a little more detail. The term archetype, who knows what that means? Who knows what that is? Praise Allah. Archetype's a pattern, but where does the pattern exist?
So that, are you asking me?
Go ahead, brother.
Okay. So
we're going to be somewhat informal, so you can talk back. Go ahead, man.
Islam. So I study numerology, and numerology basically tracks the patterns or archetypes of people. And these patterns tend to repeat themselves. And so when you ask where do they come from, I would say the soul plane is where they come from. And you are born with this archetype, and you come back multiple times to complete a mission and then go on to the next.
Well, it's very close. I like that. That's a great answer, brother, man. That's a great answer. We're taught in the Holy Quran, the Moorish Science Temple of America, thinking, understanding, reasoning, and willing. Call these not the soul. They are its actions, but they are not its essence. Meaning, chapter 1 teaches us that the soul is a body. So like we can look at our physical body now, we see limbs. What are the limbs of the soul? Prophet just told you. Thinking, understanding, reasoning, and willing. These are the actions or the functions of the soul. What else is a function of soul? Memory. Memory is a function of soul. Just to fast forward a little bit, what happened to us, Brother Tunica, truth is but one. Each one of the presenters touched on something that all of us are touching on. Right? So the brother mentioned some of the uniqueness of what happened to us during slavery, during that period. One of the things that made it unique is that our identity was wiped. Well, the technical term for that, or a technical term for that, is called ethnocide. Do you know what ethnocide means, people? It means we kill your soul. We kill your soul and leave the body. What is that called by our Caribbean brothers? A zombie. That's what it's called. We kill your soul. Memory is a function of soul. We all know this. How many times have you seen the baby born not only looks like dad or mom, but acts just like him? Memory is carried genetically. And if it's carried genetically, where was it carried from, brother and sisters? It's carried from a previous incarnation.
Islam.
Just that simple. Just that simple. Gnosis, in this sense then, since it can be carried from generation to generation, this is the origin of the degenerate version of what we would call a caste system, like what we see in India. It degenerated. People lost the original intent for it. What was the original intent of, well, this is what you are, this is what your forefathers were, this is what you're going to be? The original intent was to keep the soul memory intact so that you had immediate and conscious access to it. That was the original purpose. But then it degenerated because human weakness is human weakness. Right? So, Gnosis in this respect, since we can see that Gnosis as it relates to on the ground, on the plane of manifesting, human activity on the plane of manifest, downloads into and feeds into what makes up nations and tribes. There is a tribal Gnosis. There is a national Gnosis. There is an ethnic Gnosis. Now with that in mind, you look at Surah 49 verse 13 in the Arabic Quran, where it says, surely we have made you, O man, from a single male and female into nations and tribes, that you may know one another and not despise the other. So on the surface we look different maybe, which means what? We have immediate respect if we have our own. But then we learn to look past and see the humanity in all of us.
Right.
So, our Gnosis determines our or the nation's worldview. Does that make sense? I'm going to speed through some of this because I'm going to be coming back to it later on. And the authentic tradition, I'm kind of jumping ahead. What is called the authentic tradition in Secret Orderism, plain and simple, is a compartmentalized abbreviation or a seed, if you will, of the old world worldview of our forefathers and mothers, preserved throughout the time of the New World Order. The New World Order, as we said before, did not start with George Bush making the statement in a speech in the 80s. End of the eon. End of the eon. This is important. When the brother Trulagil demonstrated from chapter 46, the origin of Christianity, said the origin of Christianity started where? Rome. Well, we're not talking about a church, or we're not talking about a particular religious practice. We're talking about an entire worldview, a way of thinking. In other words, another gnosis. Another thought form. Another thought form. That's what we're talking about. That thought form was built on the ashes or built on the foundation of ours. So they took the term eon and replaced it with the word cosmos. End of the world. End of the world, not end of the age. And then in reinterpreting on purpose or tricking up certain things in the book of Genesis, says the first 3 words. What are the first 3 words? Genesis, first chapter, first verse. There you go, in the beginning. You are messed up already.
Come on, sure.
No, that was an initiation into, those 3 words were in a forced initiation into their mythos. It was a forced initiation into their mythos. Automatically, you're out of sorts. Why? Let's try it. Let's experiment for a second.
Come on, brother.
Close your eyes. Imagine yourself being born. Do it. Coming out of the womb. Okay. Here's the crazy part. Open your eyes. You can't imagine the beginning. You can't imagine the beginning, can you? Try. You can't. Here we go. Imagine your death. You're at your funeral. You're in the coffin. There's family. Your family and friends are there at the wake. They're speaking nice words over you. Now they take you out to the plot and put you in the ground. Close your eyes. Put yourself there. What happens if they put you in the ground? What happens after that? They put dirt over you. What happens after that? Do the lights go out? Do the lights go out? Do the lights go out? No. No. Yeah. How do you know it goes black? See, the lights didn't go out. You can't imagine an end for yourself either. You understand what I'm saying?
Islam.
You can't imagine the beginning or an end for yourself. What did Jesus tell Barata Rebo? Stop looking outside! He said, let's go, what, where? He said, let's forget the flesh and go with mind into the land of flesh. Let's immerse ourselves into the Gnosis. That's where you'll find the answers. That's what we just did, simple exercise. A lot of the real secrets, let me tell you, and we have some people in the room that can verify this. That's all I'm gonna say. If he wants to introduce himself later, he will. A lot of the real secrets are so simple, they're very powerful, but they're so simple that when people, our forefathers were under, the racks of the torture racks of the Inquisition, to give some of them up, these secrets are so simple that if you tell them, people wouldn't believe you anyway. She said, man, just kill me. Because if I tell you, I'm gonna die. Just kill me. These secrets are so simple, but so powerful, that if I told you, you wouldn't believe it. That's another way that the secrets protect themselves. Actual fact. The exercise we just did, people see, we read as Moorish Americans and members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We read the words, let's go back with mind into the land of fleshless things, but it's very quaint. It sounds very poetic. What we just did with this simple exercise is we did it, and everybody's heads did like this. Why? Because you can't find a beginning or an end. Just that simple. End of the eon instead of end of the world. That's a part of the old, that's how your forefathers thought. So our prophet, in the very first words of chapter 1, he yanked you out of that one and put you back in your forefathers' mindset. That one says, in the beginning. Ours says what? Time never was when man was not. Ain't no beginning. Brought you back home.
Praise Allah.
Brought you back home. According to a very, very strong researcher and author and lecturer, James Reston Jr., the book is called The Dogs of God. Please get the book. He reveals some powerful things. Right? The prophet taught us this. He says, through the teachings of Elihu and Salome to the parents of Jesus and John, we're taught we measure time how? Okay, here's the question. Who's the we?
Oh.
First of all, who was he? Who was Elihu? Who was he? What was his function?
To create.
Praise Allah. Oh, see, you jumping ahead of me, bro.
Oh, my fault.
But that's all right. Praise Allah. So it needed to be said. But look at his function. Hold on. Follow me, right? Mary and Elizabeth were what? Marveling over their what? Deliverance. In other words, we're supposed to be dead right now. They got a green light on our head and our children's head right now. We're not supposed to put yourself in that situation. I'm not going to make it out of this one. How many of y'all been in situations like that? All right. So you understand what it means to marvel at your deliverance, don't you? You know exactly what that feels like. I was supposed to make it out of this. So that's how they were feeling. But was Elihu the least bit surprised? Not at all. What did he say?
It's not strange.
In other words, we knew this was going to happen. Yeah. What beginning and end is on a circle, people?
Uh-oh.
Right. What'd you say about patterns, brother? All right, praise the Lord. So, but here's the thing. It says we measure time how? Okay, the we is who? The illumined. Not the profane. Not those who are uninitiated. Not those who don't know. That is who? The generality of men. We measure time by cycle ages. Meaning if you heard that, you're part of what? The illumined. Congratulations. We measure time by cycle ages, and the gate to every age redeem a milestone in the journey of the race. In other words, how do you measure time on a circle? There is a way. There's a gate on each one. Why is that important? Because we're in the manifest. If we was on the plane of spirit, it wouldn't matter at all.
Right.
But since we're on the manifest, to say the gate to every age redeem a milestone in the journey of the race does what? It takes into account that we are spirits on the plane of manifest. And what happens out there on the plane of spirit does impact here. Does that make sense? It's like a big wheel, a little tiny dot, and spokes connecting the dot to the big circle. Those spokes are the gates. So an event, any major event, especially a world-changing event, is a gate to an age. 1492, according to James Reston, was one of those. Why? Because all 5 of those things took place on that year. Do you understand? Man, listen. 1. The end of 781 years of Moorish Islamic rule in Spain and Europe. How long has this country been here? Okay. The end of the Reconquista. In other words, Europeans were fighting for a long time to get their land back. Do you know in 1477 what the talk was in Spain, in metropolitan Spain was? Do you know what it was? The showing up or the appearance of the Antichrist, a Jewish conspiracy, expecting the second coming of Jesus, and the end of the world. This is what they were discussing in 1477 Spain, brother and sisters. What does that sound like? How do we measure time today? What goes around? Comes around. That's what they were talking about. The very same things that are being talked about right now in America. They were talking about then. Do you know who they, the Europeans, claimed to be the second coming? The third point, formation of the first modern nation state. Anybody know how that happened? What was the first modern nation state? Spain. Spain. How did it happen? The marriage of Ferdinand and Isabella. One was the ruler of the kingdom of Castile. One was the ruler of Aragon. Came together, formed the first modern nation state. What was the purpose of them coming together to do so? To get us up out of here. They unified. That was the purpose. Do you know what Europeans in that day called that marriage and called them? The second coming. Did you hear what I just said? They called it the second coming. You understand that? What comes after the second coming from the Christian tradition? What comes after the second coming?
Antichrist?
Antichrist comes. What else? Say it again. Apocalypse. What else? The hereafter. The hereafter.
Hereafter what?
Okay. Fourth one. What is that?
Founding of the new world.
The hereafter.
Oh, that.
Earthly salvation.
For them. What did the prophet say? Therefore we are doing what? Returning the church of Christianity back to the European nations as it was founded by their forefathers for their what?
Earthly salvation.
Founding of the new world. 2 months after the expulsion of the Moors and the Jews who sailed the ocean blue. It was directly as a result of our defeat at Granada in 1492. The last one. Acceleration of the transatlantic slave trade. Why do I say acceleration? Because we had officially lost in Spain. We had officially lost in Spain. According to Dr. Yosef Ben Yakin and Dr. Ben and other scholars related, the first African slaves in the Americas were brought there from Spain and not Africa. The truth. If you need me to pull up the slide, it's on another PowerPoint. I'll pull it up for you, brother. That's another thing too. This is the electrified age for real, for real. That's right, Bo. You don't got to write down. Take a picture of the slide. Got it, Mo? Let's go. Get this book online. It's a hard book. It's a hardcover. It's out of print, but you can go on Amazon and get it for maybe 30 bucks, 20 bucks. Author's name is Peter Tompkins. Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids is the name of the book. I'm going to read the quote. Designed for the detection and punishment of heretics, the Inquisition was used as a giant pork barrel for the enrichment of the crown, church, and inquisitors, while cheerfully eliminating dangerous radicals. Guess who they said those dangerous radicals were? Those who had been taught medicine, geography, rhetoric, chemistry, physics, mathematics, and astronomy by Moorish philosophers in universities such as Cordova, whose libraries had since been destroyed. The Inquisition was also an excuse to rid the planet of such organized mystics as Illuminati, pantheists, Manichaeans, and Albigensians. As a result, no Spaniard could write, speak, or even think without taking into consideration the torture racks and fires of the Holy Office. Wow. Now here's the significant part. As a deterrent to possible opposition in New Spain, 34 Negroes, including 4 women, were hanged and decapitated in Mexico City. Hold on. Hold on. Here's the questions. Number one, what in the world did the Spanish Inquisition in Europe have to do with Negroes in Mexico City? Number two, why would inquisitors in Spain anticipate opposition from Negroes in Mexico City to the Inquisitions? Number three, why would the Inquisition link expelled Moors from Spain with Negroes in the Americas? Don't you ever let these people tell you that there is no connection, and we had no connection to the Americas, and the prophet was wrong when he gave us that lesson in chapter 47, instruction 7. Their dominion and inhabitation extended from Northeast and Southwest Africa across the Great Atlantis, even into the present North, South, Central America, and also the Mexico and the Atlantis Islands before the great earthquake which caused the Great Atlantic Ocean. Now let's tell me, what does this presume? What can we presume from this? That there were Asiatics, termed Negroes or Moors, in significant enough numbers with significant and adequate communication with medieval Spain to cause a possible problem in opposition to the Spanish Inquisition. That's the presumption. And that's an intelligent presumption.
Because they were finna protect.
That's right. Passing of the torch. The first part of what I'm demonstrating is showing historical context. Because remember, the gate to every age shows how you have the cosmic and timeless events on the higher planes and how they impinge upon manifest reality. Did everybody get that?
Yes.
Let me repeat it.
Yeah, say it again.
Jesus said it this way in the Aramaic, in the Lord's Prayer, I'll say it in English, on earth as it is in heaven, not on earth in one day maybe. As it is in heaven. In the actual Aramaic, it says Malkuth et Keter. That's another lesson we're going to go on a little bit later. But that's what it says in actual Aramaic. A passing of the torch from old world multiculturalism, or old world multiculturalism. There's a number of books, Dogs of God. There's another book called Forgotten World. See, these are things that are not taught in today's history. We are literally living, as Senator Bilbo said in 1946 in Meet the Press, that the Negro is living at that time 156-year-old artificial history that prevents him from equal respect in American society. Artificial history. How many of us knew that Western civilization was founded by your direct mothers and fathers?
That's right, Mo.
Western civilization. The idea of an appetizer and a salad, main course, and dessert was founded in Spain and taught to the European. Something as simple as that. This is the truth. Scottish historiographer Prince Michael of Albany has this to say. What can be said about Freemasonry without making an outrageous claim that it could be rejected by Masons is that it evolved from a remnant of Knights Templar who settled in Scotland following the order's demise in 1307. Though, I should say roots, sorry. The roots of Templarism itself, and thus those of Freemasonry, are actually deeply linked not so much to Christianity, but rather to who?
Islam.
And particularly,
Muhammad.
to think Hughes de Payens, the founder of the Templar Order, as Christian, is to take history, the propagandists, and the Christian status quo very much for granted. There are inevitably two sides to a coin, and the other side of the Christian coin is the inheritance that the whole of Europe gained from Islam.
That's right. Facts.
This is a European. This is a European saying this. James Reston Jr., Dogs of God, he says this: if the 13th century in Spain represents the apogee of tolerance and cross-fertilization between the three great religions of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, let's stop right there. Every European scholar on the subject admits that under Islamic rule in Spain, that the world achieved and maintained the greatest degree of religious tolerance the Western world has ever seen. The seeds of later trouble were sown during the same period, for it was early in that century that the institution of the Inquisition was established in earnest. The problem of wayward belief had bedeviled the Christian church since its earliest days. And yet, very early on, the attitude toward heretical views was one of forgiveness, tolerance, and exhortation. Let me pause right there. Here the author is a little conflicted. You know what he's conflicted with? The same things that our people are conflicted with when we say Christianity. We think, oh, Jesus, the teaching of Jesus. So we get conflicted. Well, what's a Christian? One who follows the teachings of Jesus the Christ. That's what we would say, and that's what the European would like us to believe. But if that was the case, why as late as the 90s would Asiatics who were doing a play on the crucifixion and they portrayed Jesus as Asiatic receive hundreds of death threats? Why?
In New Jersey.
Because they know what it means. They understand what it is for them. It is a tool. It was a tool and a mechanism for socio-political and economic world dominance. The brother Webb-Bey demonstrated that in an exemplary fashion. In an exemplary fashion. The spreading of their version of their version of Jesus' teaching that we call Christianity was used as a military tool.
Yes, sir.
Plain and simple. Everyone should get to know this guy. Omar de Torquemada.
Savage right there. Good God.
But see what this is what. Okay, let me pause for a quick second. How do we measure time, brother?
Cycle age.
Everybody measure time how?
Cycle age.
Another way to say cycle age is the word. Say it, brother. Starts with a P.
Pattern.
Pattern.
Pattern,
Understand. Our organization is called the what? The Moorish Science Temple of America. What is our religion?
Islam.
Okay, so we teach religion. But the organization is called the Moorish Science Temple of America. There's a particular secret order that uses this phrase as their motto. The aim, the method of science, and the aim of religion. Sound familiar? Meaning, the presumption is what? You can analyze spiritual things in a scientific way.
That's right. Yep.
That's what it means. How do you do it? Here we go, real simple. Again, some of the most powerful secrets are very simple. They're right in front of you. Who can count by 5? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, okay. We can all do it, right?
Yes.
Can we see the 5? No. What do? We know the pattern of 5 by its effect on the other numbers. Let me repeat that.
Yes.
We perceive the pattern of 5 by its effect on the other numbers. The study of pattern, the study of archetype, is scientific spiritual study.
Say it again.
The study of patterns. Because patterns are intangible, but they make themselves known by impinging upon the tangible. Case in point, my son's mother used to have 2 cats, brother and sister. The sister cat was just a cat. The brother cat was trying to make the evolutionary jump. Cat turned doorknobs, cat would ring the doorbell, cat would knock on the door. I'm serious. Cat would sit up and watch TV. Not even joking. So I had a laser pointer. My son used to drive him crazy with the laser pointer. Point the dot at the ground, cats go crazy. Took about an hour for the boy cat to figure it out.
Wow.
He stopped and at one point was just staring at him. And he's like, Dad, he won't do it. He won't look at him. I'm like, yeah, he figured you out. He's not happy. He was able to see the source. He was able to see behind the manifestation. Yes, sir.
Usually with patterns, you have to see at least 3 of them to start determining.
Minimum of 3. We're going to get to that. Minimum of 3. That is part of the scientific method. Minimum of 3. So, when we're looking at the historical things, the illumined, the initiated, look at this and they look through the historic physical impact to see the pattern behind it. First Grand Inquisitor forced the conversion of Moors and Jews to Catholicism under the labels Converso, Morisco, and Morano. Formed the Enforcer Brotherhood called La Hermandad. Seen that before somewhere?
It's Spanish mafia. Oh, the Mexican mafia.
Also to the foundation of slave catchers. Literally the ideological slave catcher. We're looking at the origin of the pattern. Supported the Alhambra decree that expelled Moors and Jews from Spain in 1492. Torquemada oversaw the waging of a social, political, and ideological war to unseat the old world worldview and supplant it with the new world order of Christ, not to be confused with the true teachings of Jesus. What is the war we're fighting here, people? In the Bible, in the book of Daniel, and in Revelations, it's called the war in heaven. Which heaven? See, our questionnaire has some secrets in it, doesn't it? Which heaven? We're talking about in this point, we're talking about on the plane of soul. But what happens on the plane of soul? Thinking, understanding, reasoning, and willing. Thinking, understanding, reasoning, and willing. Happens on the plane of soul. So what are we talking about? We're talking about an ideological war, a propaganda war. What are some of the elders say in the Moorish Culture of America? The prophet is right and the world is wrong. You hear them say it all the time. The prophet is right and the world is wrong. What does the world say about us? All we know about them is they've been dead. Black according to science means
Yeah.
right? So all we know about them is up from slavery. Isn't that exactly what was said about the land, that it looked as if it had been slain since the foundations of the earth in Revelations? That was in the throne room of Allah, and nobody else nobody else in that throne room who were rulers were qualified to take the book written within it on the backside, sealed with 7 seals, and crack the 7 seals. But the Lamb that looked as if it had been slain since the foundations of the world was worthy.
That's right, man.
Sounds like black according to science means deaf to me. Sounds like the whole world says all we know about them is what? Dead. But the prophet said what? You see what I'm saying? This is an ideological war. This is the war we're up against. We're literally up against a worldview.
That's right, man.
We're up against a worldview, and the fight we're in is to change the narrative. This guy is a hero to those guys. What happened? This guy. He's a hero because he made that major sacrifice and put in that work to change the narrative the world over. So did this guy. Quick review. The first, if you don't know anything about how our people, about the transatlantic slave trade, know this. Know this. Pope Eugene IV issued the papal bull Elias Cue, 1442. That is what sanctioned the Portuguese Order of Christ to begin slave raids on the west coast of Africa. He described it as a new crusade against the Moors. That's how he described it. So any of the naysayers, any of our super woke people talking about, I ain't no more, are you descendant of slaves? That's the foundation of the whole entire African slave trade. A crusade against the Moors. Said by the Pope himself. These four papal bulls, know them, please, know about them. The first one, initiated African transatlantic slave trade as a new crusade against the Moors, allowed for the enslavement of all non-Christian people. Dum diversus, ordered that Moorish captives be subjected to perpetual servitude. That's denationalization. Romanist Pontifex sanctioned the seizure of land on the African coast under the influence of the Moroccan Empire for the Church and the Crown. And then Inquisition followed up on that. It included the lands in the Americas. These papal bulls became the foundation for Doctrine of Discovery. The Doctrine of Discovery is literally the lid on the sarcophagus of Moorish Old World worldview. That's it. The global slave trade of the 15th, 16th centuries, the age of imperialism or manifest destiny, and the social construct caste system of the color code system of race, which peaked in development and use in America. Beginning with the Christianized Spanish and Portuguese nations, Doctrine of Discovery was later adopted by France and England after the defeat of the Spanish Armada to further their colonial efforts. Oh, I think I cut off. Well, doesn't matter, I got it up here. Now remember, now watch this. Why was France and England able to adopt Doctrine of Discovery and adopt all of these papal bulls when they weren't Spain, they weren't Portugal? How were they able to do it? Anybody know? Here's the answer, people, real quick. These papal bulls were written by the Pope. So any Christian nation could adopt them. Any Christian nation could claim them. In 1793, guess who claimed it? Thomas Jefferson. Declared it to be international law. But this set up a real interesting dynamic here in America. That claiming that set up a real interesting, and now we get to see, because again, remember, we're dealing with secret orderism. We're dealing with a hidden knowledge and how that hidden knowledge impacts on what you see. In the game of football, the play is only secret in the huddle. When they run the play, everybody sees it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely an advantage when you know what the play is in the huddle before
You
you
can run a shotgun, you know.
Yes, sir.
Been studying things.
Get this book. A Secret Society History of the Civil War. What Thomas Jefferson did in 1793 by declaring Doctrine of Discovery to be international law He set up a clock. He set up an expiration date. He set up an expiration date. Two opposing factions of American secret orderism. In the unpublished work, of Anael-Bey, sometimes certain things that are very sensitive have to be said in a very childlike manner. In Anael-Bey's unpublished work, he mentions federal Masons and states Masons.
Federal Masons and states Masons?
Yes. Yes. I preface that with saying this. Sometimes to reveal a thing that's of a very sensitive nature, you kind of say it in a childlike way. What he did when he declared Doctrine of Discovery to be international law is set the ideological ground floor for these two opposing ideals in American society. Here's my question to all of you, because if you're members of the Moorish Science Symbol of America, then you have a basic understanding of Americanism. Is the United States of America in any shape, form, or fashion founded upon the Christian faith?
No, not at all.
Not, say it again.
Not at all.
Let me ask the question again. Is the United States of America in any shape, form, or fashion founded upon the Christian religion?
No.
Absolutely not. Emphatically no. So how in the world could Doctrine of Discovery be claimed? And why would it be claimed? Why, people? I want to hear back now.
In the states.
Oh, yeah, that's true, but why? 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 Do I need to go back a few slides? Can I kind of refresh your memory on what people lived and ruled here before the regime change?
Because we were already there.
Moor, compromise.
Europeans needed a reason to be here even after winning the Revolutionary War. Yes, sir.
Also depends on how you define Christianity.
Uh-oh. That's right. But they still needed a reason to be here. You all follow me? You sure? Follow me.
Yes, sir.
All right. That said, remember, when a play is in the huddle, you don't see it. But when the play is run, you all should be fairly familiar with these two ideologies in American society. This is what was meant by federal Masons and states' right Masons. Why did we use the term Masons? Because remember, Freemasonry politically was against the Catholic Church. Against it, but just because it was against the Catholic Church, you can't make the presumption that all of them were pro-Moorish Old World worldview. Hence,
States versus federal. Interesting.
see how that works? Who's on this side? Here's a better question. What people in today's society, in today's American society, in the Trump administration, here's my hint, adopts that side?
Republicans, middle America.
The alternative right. Come on, let's go. Alternative right. Evangelicals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was that born from? What was it born from, people? I'm gonna stretch you now. Let's work. Let's exercise our five senses. This ideology on the right side, no pun intended, that ideology on the right side, what was it born from? Remember, how do we measure time, people?
Cycling.
Okay, this is exercise. What was that born from? Let's look at it.
Torquemada.
Say it again, brother.
Spanish Inquisition.
The Inquisitions. What were the Inquisitions for, people?
Expelling all the Moors and all heretics.
Yeah, that works. So now you know what you're looking at today. Now you know what you are looking at today. We measure time how again? Recognize the pattern, people. Recognize the pattern. Of course, you see the bottom ones? Republican leaning, Democratic leaning, until the 1960s. Because again, remember, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. We can't just say, oh, Ronald Wilson Reagan, 6 letters in all 3 names, 666, he was the beat. No. It ain't that simple. We have to be able to recognize the intangible through the effect on the tangible. Right? So we are not demonizing one political party over another political party. Those are vehicles. You hit me with your car, I'm not kicking the car, I'm looking in the windshield. Recognize that guy?
Yes.
Watch this. The book is called The Devil's Bargain. Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, and the storming of the White House. How do we measure? I'm going to keep saying this. How do we measure time, people? All right, you know a little something about our history and how we fell now in 1492, right? Keep your feet there. That's a little difficult reading. I'll read it. It's about Bannon, about Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon received an education steeped in classics and history. The Benedictine curriculum was traditional Western civilization presented in a context of Catholicism. Quote, we were all taught that Western civilization was saved 500 years ago in Spain when Ferdinand and Isabella defeated the Moors. The lesson was, here's where Muslims could have taken over the world. And here was the great stand where they were stopped. We were taught a what? A worldview. This is how Catholicism survived. I think that shaped all of us. What did he say? I think that shaped who? All of us. But what Steve took away, I think, was a belief that you've got to be willing to identify the threat. When we were growing up, the threat was the atheist communist Soviet Union. Now Muslims are trying to blow us up. Oh, so what? Now look what his job was. He's American media executive, political strategist, and former White House chief strategist. Yes. What's guiding his policies? Right. Say it. What'd you say, bro? Torquemada, 1492. That's who's guiding his policies. You think for a second he don't know who you are? Quiz. We talked about worldview, didn't we? Okay. And how some of us, we talked about this last night at the Holy Day meeting, how some of us, myself included, wear pheasant turban, probably call myself a Muslim, still got some of the Christian Europeanized worldview up here. Okay, it's a process. Yes. That being said, if you understand what we're talking about right now, you will understand why the European evangelicals will call Trump the most Christian and the most Christian president America's ever seen. Right.
I don't like talking about Trump.
I see. He was not pleased.
It's not the moral.
And at the same time, these same European evangelicals, these same ones, no matter how much he supports LGBT, no matter how many churches he belongs to, and no matter how much pork he eats, will still call President or former President Obama a Muslim. Now you get it. Because in the old world worldview, as Brother Tunica Ill demonstrated, in that socialization, if you said Muslim, the presumption was what? You were Asiatic. If you were European, the presumption was what? You were Christian. They still hold that today. Don't believe me? Everybody pull out the phones right now and Google Christian identity. Google it. You'll find it's the ideological basis for every white supremacist group in America.
Talk about it.
It's also the ideological foundation for the evangelicals and the alt-right. Yes, sir.
What's the ideological foundation for the left or the most liberal?
Ooh, we'll get into that. Definitely get into that. I'll give you a story. The story's in the Bible.
It's 9:55.
Praise the Lord.
Oh, my fault.
That's the chopper. No,
That was the chopper. Yes, sir.
No,
Yes, sir.
that's not the Washington Monument.
The archetypal story to answer that question is actually in the Bible. Right? Has he finished his task of devouring?
No.
Hello, we're talking about the Moorish question here now. Has he finished his task of devouring? Answer. When was his time declared out? No. When he nailed Jesus on the cross. What was the last words Jesus uttered? Answer. What did he have reference to? He had reference to the end of Satan. Okay. He was speaking from the timeless perspective. He was seeing future things on the plane of manifest as if they had already happened. How did he measure time? Boom. See that? So he could count it almost as if it had already happened. Because he's seeing it in the pattern. He's seeing it from the cosmic perspective. Right? That being said, what are we told in the Bible? There was a man to the right and a man to the left of him, right? The one on the right was talking real reckless. The one on the left said, listen, he's not supposed to be up here. We deserve it. He doesn't. And then what did he say to Jesus? When you enter into your kingdom, remember me. What did the prophet tell us when the Moors get back on top? Treat the European nice. Same thing. Same thing. That's the role, brother.
You know what he's doing now, right?
What's he doing?
Better.
What's he doing?
He's over in Rome.
Yes.
He's trying to set up an antithesis to the Catholic Church. He said that you're liberal now.
Yes. Yes. He's unifying the.
Isn't that something?
Yes.
Isn't that something? Get that book, please.
Can we get a book, please?
Get that book. As the brother pointed out, at the end of the Civil War, right, Asiatics controlled over 60% of the southern state legislatures.
Nice.
Not just citizens, elected officials. In this book, he talks about what's if you mention this term, the Second Civil War, people will look at you like, especially Europeans, especially if they're over 50, they're going to look at you like, whoa, what you know about that? The Second Civil War. The Europeans only lost, the Confederates only lost the Civil War militarily. Let me repeat it. They only lost the Civil War militarily. Sociopolitically, we're still fighting it.
Facts.
Wow.
We're still fighting it.
Yeah.
That's the fact. Do you know that over 2,000 Asiatics and European supporters were murdered from 1870 to 1879? You know what their crime was? Being Asiatic and being an elected official. That happened, people. Wilmington, South Carolina, 1898. Look at the headline of the newspaper.
North Carolina.
North Carolina, thank you, brother.
So cool.
By revolutionary methods, white citizens of North Carolina overturned existing city government and had once established their own. That was a coup. That was a takeover of a legitimate American city.
Yeah.
That happened. Wasn't the only place it happened. I can give you a short list of 15 cities it happened in.
Atlanta was one of them.
Atlanta was one of them. All right, so that was historical context. Now we want to start talking about what the old world worldview is. There's a reason. Old time religion, right? What is our religion? Answer. Is that the new or the old time religion?
Old time.
What does old time religion mean? It means an old worldview, how we see our relationship to our Creator. We have to put that mind back on. The Moorish Science Temple of America, in that sense, is an initiatory body because it carries, I'm going ahead of myself, 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes. It is a repository of the old world Moorish Gnosis. The organization is a thought organization. It's not just enough to have some piece of literature walking around. You have to live the life amongst each other in order to immerse yourself back into the Gnosis. Heaven, earth, and hell are not above, around, and below, but where? That is paradigm shifting. That is paradigm shifting. Imagine 50 of us that truly believe that and live together.
Fact.
Black Wall Street would be a foregone conclusion. Gnostic ideology. Why do I say Gnostic?
Gnosis.
There you go. But there was a particular tradition that that became Christianized. And even they got persecuted. Because why? They were carrying our worldview. And they veiled it thinly with Christianity. They thinly veiled it with Christianity and they got persecuted too.
Hypnotize?
Monad, these are terms. These are terms for you to look at and ponder and research. But the one in particular that I want you to look at is the one archons. I want you to look at that real close. The G. Pythagoras said this. God forever geometrizes. What does that mean? That is the real understanding of John 3:16 in the Bible. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. That's the real understanding. What does it mean for God so loved the world? It meant Allah has a connection to his creation. So much so, he has a representative inside it. That's what it means. That's what it means. God forever geometrized, meaning Allah forever makes himself known inside his creation. Forever meaning what? Genesis is happening every second of the day. That's what it means. Chapter 11, Holy Quran of Moor, Science, Symbol of America, one of my favorite chapters ever. What is that right there in that picture? Oh, yeah, when you read chapter 11, it is a description of that. From Allah's own record book, we read, the Triune Allah breathed forth, and 7 spirits stood before his face. That's what you're looking at. Now, why do we see Triune Allah? Who said something about a triangle? Who knows the difference between Allah the One and Allah the Three?
One is of the essence, one is of the existence. The two different type of triangles.
See, now he told him. So. Here we go. Oneness, we say, Kuhu Allahu Ahad. Allah is one. That's mathematical. Not one God. One. Meaning beyond duality, beyond thingness. Where does Allah travel? Allah's omnipotent. He don't travel nowhere. He's already there.
It's already there.
That's right.
Think about that. Where's there to move? Allah is all.
That's right, man.
But we can't conceive that. You know why it says finite minds cannot comprehend things infinite? You know why? It's because on the plane of manifest, how do we draw in information? Through our 5 senses. Our 5 senses operate how? On duality. You need opposites for your 5 senses to work. Outside of duality, your 5 senses fall apart. Doesn't mean we don't experience unity. You just can't say it. That's the real secrets. It's not that we vow not to take oaths, not to carve, print, impress, ... secrets. It's impossible to speak on. Want to try me? Mathematics is universal language, am I right? Everything speaks the language of numbers, right? Tell me what the number 5 means right now. I'll wait.
Freedom.
You sure?
Islam.
You sure?
Islam.
Where'd you learn that?
Studying morality. Studying numbers.
Yeah, some people say it means power or fire. Some people say it means other things. Right. Tell me what 5 means. How many of you are Spanish speakers? Who speaks Spanish? Come on now. You speak some Spanish? What would we call that right there? He said a door. English speakers would call that a door. Spanish speakers would call that la puerta. Well, which one is it? Is it la puerta or is it the door?
It's both.
Neither. It's a name. It describes the thing. It directs us to the thing. The name is not the thing. Show you how the prophet taught us that. Show you how the prophet taught us that. To whom do we refer to at times as being the great God? Answer?
Allah.
Why didn't he just say, who's the God? Why didn't he just say that? He said, to whom do we refer to? Because you can't name him. What did the prophet teach us? Man's what is his God?
Ideals.
If man's ideal is his God, that means our gods are creation of our own minds. Allah's beyond that. Allah's beyond that. If he's almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible, that means he's beyond your thinking. I'm not denying that there are other gods. There definitely are. But what are they? Made of air and clothed with the shadow of a thought. There you go. That's what they are. They're the product of man himself. I'm not saying they're bad or good, but they're the product of man himself. Okay? Allah the One, beyond thingness. The declaration of faith in the Arabic language, Ashhadu la ilaha illallah. The mistranslation is that there's no God but Allah. That's not what it means. The proper translation is there is no God. There is only Allah. That's what it really means. Causeless cause. Then there's Allah the Three. How many of you can tell me what creative fate is? I just told you. Creative fate spoken of in chapter 1 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Symbol of America is the Triune Allah. It is Allah's will to manifest. How can I prove it? According to Pythagoras, who learned in ancient Kemet geometry, we can prove it very simply, right? How many lines does it take to create an enclosed structure minimum?
3.
Universal Allah is what? Wisdom, will, and love. That is creative fate. Allah the Seven, the supporting staff who plowed the field, created the 7 fields that the billions and billions, to quote a famous scientist, of Allah's thoughts went into. Chapter 11 is an exposition on chapter 1. Chapter 11 speaks of the teeming thoughts of Allah, those seeds that went into those 7 plains or those 7 soils. Chapter 1 is special. It only speaks of one special thought, and that's man himself. So Allah the Seven is the Elohim. Who knows the etymology of the word Elohim? 2 words in the Aramaic language, Ilah, which is what? Say it. Allah. That's what it is. Same word. And then the suffix him, which means plural. More than one. That's what it means. Supporting staff of manifestation, governors of form or containers, or the Greek tekton, which is an archon, an architect. And then Allah, ... I'm not going to say any more about that. Mathematical formula for divine plurality within monotheism. How can we talk about different gods but still say we are Muslims and monotheists? Question of the century. We can break it down very simply so that our minds can understand it mathematically. The identity property of addition states that the sum of 0 and any number or variable is the number of or variable itself, or 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. That is the basic understanding of the average Christian in the West. Which is why the average Muslim in the West, who doesn't understand it either, calls them polytheists instead of monotheists. They have made God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost 3 different gods. Both sides are thinking wrong. Indicative of linear finite thinking causes the intellect and the intuition to clash. The heart and the mind fight each other. Just like when you hear the words in the beginning, automatically, heart and mind start fighting. Automatically. Proper way of thinking. Identity property of multiplication. States that the product of 1 and any number or variable is that number or variable itself. Or 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. Ooh. Indicative of Islamic thought. Satisfies both the intellect and the intuition. Brings about a state of what? Peace. Brings about a state of peace. Man, I wouldn't do that. Okay. Almost got more. The immediate future. I'm speeding through a lot of stuff. We could go on. Speeding through a lot of stuff. The end of time and the fulfillment of prophecies. What do we got? Nation of Islam says this. Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote in his book, Our Savior Has Arrived. There are 2 gods on the scene. There are 2 gods on the scene. There are 2 gods on the scene. Man's, what is his God? What are the 2 ideals on the scene? 1, you're a Negro. What's the other one? The prophet brought it. Man is not the body of the soul, man, spirit, and part of Allah. You are not Negro, black, and colored, and people can't be those things. 2 ideas on the scene. Why is that so interesting? The prophet said the time has come when every nation must worship under its own violent victory and every tongue must confess its own. Do you understand what that is? Both brothers demonstrated that the whole color code system of racism is the ideological foundation of America itself. So what's the prophet saying when he says the time has come when every nation must worship under its own violent victory? Saying that America has to follow these principles that we're talking about right now and get rid of whiteness. And Asiatics have to get rid of, and I'm not talking about in names specifically, I'm talking about the principles. We got to let them go. If not, see, because the thing is that they're on their way out no matter what anyway. But if we want to cling to them, you know how that works. We're all children, and hopefully we had good parents, so you know there were penalties if you did a certain thing. No matter how tempting it was, and guess what we almost all of us did? We tried it. Right? And then we realized afterwards, you know what? It really wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. Two gods on the scene. How many are familiar with Jared Taylor? Look him up. Jared Taylor is a very prolific white nationalist writer and organizer. How many of you saw them on Vice? A couple years ago, he was on Vice. And it was the Korean guy that was interviewing him. Man, he just laid it out. He laid it out. He said, how did the Korean guy was talking about this whole racism thing? You think you're racially superior? He's like, yeah, we are. He goes, yeah, it caused a lot of people to die, non-European peoples to die. Yes, because we're more superior. And then he said, yeah, but you voted for Trump. And the Korean guy thought he had him. He said, but you voted for Trump. You talk about this intelligence and this superiority thing, but you voted for Trump. So he thought he had it. Jared Taylor kind of laughed and put his head down and said, yeah, well, you know, that's a totally different thing. He said, no. You said you voted for Trump. You voted for Trump. But you're talking this superiority and this higher intelligence thing. How? This is what he said. He said, I voted for Trump for one reason and one reason only. I'm quoting him. His policies, if implemented, will slow the dispossession of whites in America. Yep. That's what he said. They know exactly what they're looking at, people. They're looking at right now, Europeans are looking at right now what our forefathers were looking at in 1477 and in 1492. The end of our world. The end of an eon. That's what they're looking at, and they know it. So they're taking it for the team. They consider themselves heroes. Did you read? Please go online and read the manifesto of the New Zealand shooter. Please read it. If you're a Moorish American Muslim, you will get goosebumps when you read it. Because it will verify everything I've said today. He will tell you why he's doing what he's doing. Normalizing, mainstreaming, and celebrating of Euro-nationalism within American society, attempting to extend the time of the illusion. The awakening and, but here's the other part. The awakening and injecting of the old world worldview into modern society. Hitting the reset button on Western civilization. Do you understand the impact or the significance of Muslims in a room with the American flag? Is that normal? Is that considered normal? What are we doing? You want to know what we're doing? We're redefining Americanism. Our prophet was 100 years ahead. We know that every American citizen has how many flags? Do you know that 95% of European Americans no longer know that? And that is base bottom civics 101. Who do you think is going to re-educate Americans? How do you think America is going to survive ideologically? Whose hands is it in? What did the prophet say? The key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations. Moorish Americans and the redefining of Americanism. That is what we are doing. We are not here to fight the European. We're here to be standing tall when the smoke clears, and we're the only game in town. Here's where I get in trouble. Look at the future. And then I'm going to end. True religion is, Why do I say the term ultra-terrestrial? How many of you are familiar with chapter 11 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science of America? Is man's origin terrestrial?
No, sir.
Or is what's man's home plane?
Spirit.
Off-world. How about that? Off-world. What I'm showing here, correct me if I'm wrong and verify, brother. What I'm showing you here, I'm not even going to talk about it. If you want to take a picture of it, take a picture of it. What I'm showing you here is one of the core secrets of true secret orderism. We are talking about evolution. Chapter 11 speaks about evolution, but proper evolution, a spiritual evolution. Jesus says that every thought is an individual thought, and it does what? It grows and unfolds into perfection of its kind. Of its kind. What causes growth and development? Unsettling. In the book of Genesis, in the Garden of Eden, there was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The way it's translated into the English from the Aramaic, in the Aramaic it was Tov and Ra. Tov was translated as good. Ra was translated as evil. It's turned on its head. Tov does not mean good. The word Tov means to unsettle, to shake up, to agitate, to cause movement. That's what it means. Ra means to settle, to make stagnant, to cause retardation. To keep still. That's what it means. Aleister Crowley, familiar? He talked about a group of people, higher beings, higher humans, who were working against what he called the Great White Brotherhood. And he said their primary objective is to stop humanity from thinking. That's a quote. Stop humanity from thinking. What did the prophet say?
I'll get you to think.
Chapter 1 teaches us what? Without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. And what? Thought is developed by what? This organization is to get us to think. If we are advocates of making ourselves think and others think, we are, according to the language used in Secret Orderism, we are now on the side of, or have established what's called a magical or occult link with that group of advanced humanity. If we are, man, I'm just going to be comfortable, man, just chill, man, you guys are too right, then who are we working for? There was one other thing I was going to speak on. I'm not. Yes, I am. Chapter 1. Seeds are perfect. Yeah, it's perfect as the source from which they come, but they are not unfolded in the life made manifest. The child is as perfect as the mother is. The seed and the child are not the same. The prophet, in a very simple way, he gave you the key to what people call Kabbalah. Right there. The cosmic dynamism of the primary duality. The Ouroboros, so the snake eating itself. He gave it to you right there. What is the purpose of a seed? And the seed that came forth from the heart of Allah, grow and unfold what? Exponentially and infinitely. But it had to be put in a soil conducive for its growth. What is that? A container. What is the purpose of the seed? What is the purpose of the container? Provide the environment for the seed to grow. What's the purpose of the seed? Outgrow the container. What do you have? The primary duality. Seed outgrows the container, new container is made. Seed outgrows the container, new container is made. The life-death current. That's what you have. The binary system. The 1 and the 0. That's what you have. That's what you have. Tell me if I'm saying too much, brother. Anyway, That's what you have, and it's right there in chapter 1. Is man above the angels or below?
Above.
But he was made what? Physical part of man was made what? Below them. Right? What are the Elohim? Based on what you know now. Governors of form. Makers and maintainers of containers. What is man's objective? To be free from the containers. To rise above. Right? What is the work of masterminds? To restore man's lost esteem. The bodies and souls of men are what? Finite things, and they will change. Yea, from the carnal point of view, the time will come when they will be no more. We're in a school of initiation, which means our evolution is supposed to be accelerated. The prophet taught us that it's going to happen for humanity no matter what. But we're supposed to lead the pack. We are to lead the pack. Any questions? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You said everybody has 2 flags, so just within that context, what about the people who have the Southern flag or the Confederate flag?
Good question. Good question. Here it is. You'll never find in any congressional record or any law regarding the Civil War it being called the Civil War. You got some of us that believe, oh, well, you know, we're still in a state of emergency because there was never a treaty signed to end war, because that's how wars are traditionally ended, right? Well, you know why there wasn't no treaty signed, brother? It's because the Congress is incapable of recognizing the Confederacy as an independent nation. It calls it in the records and in the law the rebellion. It's not an official war, so it doesn't recognize the Confederate flag. That's the fact. Any other questions?
Why you about bioenergetics, transcendentalism? Did you say anything about that?
I'll say this. How many of us have cell phones? How many of us, let's be honest, have experienced telepathy? Why do you need a cell phone?
I don't know how to do it fully trained.
So if you need a cell phone and you totally disbelieve in the skill of telepathy, who are you subject to? Which one of these are you subject to? See that? Containers are advancing too.
Body banks and climate.
Oh, think about it. Oh, those are realities. They're just not publicly made public yet. Am I right, brother? Well, that's where body banks are a reality. You understand what that means by a body bank?
What's that movie, Altered Carbon?
There you go. One morning you get up and instead of putting on a new suit, you put on a new body. But guess what that is? That is the lower level demonstration of chapter 17. Where you yourself, through the raising of your vibration, change your flesh by speed of light from flesh of man to flesh of Allah. See? 2 different ideals on which way humanity should advance. One liberates, one confines. See where the prophet put us?
Why is artificial intelligence part of the Black Brotherhood?
Because it's artificial. Watch this. No, that's a powerful question. Right? Watch this, people. Whew. What are some of the moral and social issues regarding cloning? Or regarding artificial intelligence?
No conscious.
Oh, what else?
No spirit.
Oh, what else?
No soul.
What else? People can live forever. All kinds of other things involved with artificial intelligence, right? But you got 2 sides. People saying we need to do this. What will artificial intelligence eventually do? You ready? Possibly. But what does it do for a fact? you're literally creating a life form, but it's not carbon based. Genesis 1st chapter 26 verse. What does it say? Let us. Isn't that the same argument? Surah 2 verse 34. Allah says to the angels, I'm going to create Khalifa in the earth, generation after generation. What do the angels say? Man, listen, that thing ain't got no conscience. Man, listen, that same conversation. That's us acting as Elohim, brother. The mere fact that we can talk about it shows humanity advancing exactly the way our own Quran, Moorish Science Temple of America says. We have no idea what this thing is. We only think we do. We have no idea. You see the seats and the conversations this puts us in? Man. Any other questions? Did I answer your question, brother?
Yeah.
Praise it. Any other questions? Thank you all very much for listening. There's so much more we could have covered, but I think that's sufficient. I've got my
contact interface.
Say it again, brother?
Ancestor contact interface. That's the last one. You said anything about that one.
I'm glad you said that.
You know about that.
What is the everlasting gospel? Answer, it is a saving power that comes from Allah. Through how? Through our ancient fathers. That is a technology, people. How do we measure time? Is that the more proper way, or is linear the more proper way? Well, if the cycle is the more proper way, listen, if the cycle is the more proper way, is it possible that we can have and maintain contact with our ancestors?
Yes.
Real conscious contact with our ancestors? That's a technology, people. True religion is off-world technology. True religion is off-world technology. That's what it is. That's what it is. The people that study study UFO phenomena, they call themselves ufologists. Ever since the early 90s, what has come out is that if you're a true ufologist, you understand the link between ufology, or the UFO phenomenon, and secret orderism. And you have realized that there have been a group of people since the beginning of time that have always had contact and communication and interface with the phenomena called off-world technology. Always. Always. That's the fact. So, ancestor contact and interface. How is that achieved? Ritual. Ritual is a spaceship. Let me say it again. Ritual is a spaceship. But not just a spaceship, it's a time spaceship. Because remember, 3 dimensions of space, 1 dimension of time. 3 dimensions of space, 1 dimension of time. On the plane of manifest, that's what it is. 1 dimension of time. So what does that mean? These 2 fingers cannot occupy the same space at the same what? Time. But at a different time, they can do that all day long. But not the same time. 3 dimensions of space, 1 dimension of time. The mere fact that you're sitting here and you can think, reason, will, and understand, and you have consciousness that knows no bounds, demonstrates that there are parts of you that are not bound up by 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. Do we need to do an exercise? Let's do the exercise. While you're seated. Ye are the children of one Father. Repeat after me.
Ye are the children of one Father.
Provided for by His care.
Provided for by His care.
And the breast of one mother.
And the breast of one mother.
Have given you suck.
Have given you suck.
Let the bonds of affection.
Let the bonds of affection.
Therefore.
Therefore.
Unite thee with thy brothers.
Unite thee with thy brothers.
That peace and happiness.
That peace and happiness.
May dwell in our Father's house.
May dwell in our Father's house.
And when you separate in the world.
And when you separate in the world.
Remember the relation.
Remember the relation.
That bindeth you.
That bindeth you.
To love and unity.
To love and unity.
And prefer not a stranger.
Prefer not a stranger.
Before thine own blood.
Before thine own blood.
If If thy brother's in adversity, assist him. If thy sister's in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy fathers contribute to the support of his whole race and his care. And continue to you all in your love for each other. Okay, we all heard ourselves. There's a difference between hearing and listening. Listening means that your intent goes out. Hearing means you stay inside your body and you let the sound come to your ear. Same thing with our eyes. Same thing with the voice. Right? Okay. Now, in your head, repeat after me. In your head, ye are the children of one Father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother has given you son. Let the bonds of affection, therefore, unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in our Father's house. And when you separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thine own blood. If thy brother's in adversity, assist him. If thy sister's in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all for your love for each other. Question. Did you hear yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here's my question. How?
What?
How? How you hear yourself? Did you make a sound? Did the ear hear anything?
Vibration.
Whose voice was it? Who was listening? How about that? Who was speaking and who was listening? Ask yourself those questions. And then be forced to realize there is a part of yourself that, as the Oracle said to Neo in the Matrix Reloaded, that is outside of time. That is outside of duality. We have just proven it to you. There is a part of you that is non-physical. What did the prophet teach us in Know Thyself? Right? The body remains perfect after it's fled. Right? Think about that. That is the true reality. This is the illusion. What you demonstrated in that simple exercise and then just contemplation is exercising your spiritual self.
That's right.
That is an exercise, people. Do it often. Because it reminds you in a very real way that man is not the body or the soul. Man is spirit and body.
Yes, sir. On that note.
Thank you very much. Peace.
الله أكبر حي على الصلاة